Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another NerdTube Star Trek Highly Illogical podcast. I am joined here by a conglomerate of Trekkies, and today we're going to be categorizing the utility of each of the big starships in Star Trek history. I know it's a weird way to say it, but you'll get it when we get into it. This week, I am joined by we are joined again by Zam because of time change, and he's not working tomorrow. He said he could be here, so we are glad he's here. Zam, how you doing?
I'm so happy to be here. I say this with no exaggeration whatsoever, but joining this podcast today is arguably the greatest day of my entire life. I'm touched.
And next to him, we have returning this week, Christine. How you doing?
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Even though I know very, very little about Star Trek, although I do love it.
That's okay. You know what? If you learn something, then we've done our job. Yep. And then down below we have Mirror Mage. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk about the ships. Glad to be here.
And
I'm not an expert either, but I'm definitely down to learn.
Honestly, it's mostly about opinions with some of these categories. So, I mean, and it's going to be a good discussion, I think. And then beside him, we've got from Beyond Trek podcast, Big J Jefferson. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How you guys doing tonight?
Hanging
Excellent,
in there.
dude. Excellent.
Good. Looking forward to talking about some ships.
That's right. So everybody does their ships that they talk about, like their videos where they talk about ships. You got Trek Yards, you got all these other places that talk about this stuff. And I thought, I want to do something different. And I thought, why don't we talk about the utility of each ship, what they're used for in the fleet, or at least what their show has depicted them to be used for. And I feel like there's a couple of these ships in here that we will have a bit of discussion about. Some of them are pretty easy, but I think some of them will actually be more of a discussion rather than anything else. Also, Daniel Vance is in the chat. He says, I heard from Miltos Gaming on Twitch that there was a highly illogical conversation happening here. That is true. He says also, Happy Pie Day. Happy Pie Day.
Chicken pie.
And then he also says, do not covet thy neighbor's starship. Christopher Pike, Brother 2.1. Okay.
Must be one of the novels.
Maybe. Yeah. Oh, and here we comes the ginger Greek. I like shops that go pew pew. Wow, you like shops that shoot? Well, that's the extent of my knowledge. Hey, that's all you need here. Oh,
I think it's ships.
Yes,
ships.
I know. I know, but I like giving him crap.
No, he's made another typo. It's chips.
Yes, chips.
Ginger.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. What we're gonna do is, and I'm gonna bring. I don't know how this is gonna work with the, but I'm gonna do this. So see how all of us get sprawled out.
Ooh.
Then I'm gonna add.
I feel like I'm in a game show.
I know. Can you guys? Mage looks okay up there, right? I was worried about the StreamYard thing, but I think Mage is far enough over that we don't have to worry about the StreamYard logo getting away. Yeah, because I took the Highly Illogical podcast logo down just because. All right. Oh, it messed up all of my things. Why did it mess up all of my things? It messed up my order. I had everything in order prior to us starting, and then something happened and it messed it up.
Sure you did. Sure.
Evidence.
There's
photographic evidence.
Millions wouldn't, but I believe you.
All right. Well, fine. Here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to add these photos back in here because this tier list thing is stupid. And they're just not in order. We're just, I will go in order, but though they won't be down here in order. Okay. So anyway, so let's start with
Sorry, this new name here for me. Utility rankings. Yes, sir. Or madam.
Actually, yeah, I have no idea which. The problem is with StreamYards that it doesn't tell me which channel it's on because we're linked to 3 YouTubes right now, so it does not tell me which channel that's on. So it's not on NerdTube. So it must be either on Beyond Trek or No Budget. But anyway.
Wait, before we begin, I have a question.
Yep.
Are we also doing bad guy ships?
No, just the hero ships, really. So I have these down into 4 categories, which is command. So it'll be a command type ship. Ma'am Olive on YouTube. No budget. So okay, so over on no budget.
Yes, ma'am.
So command, support, science, and exploration. So I know I kind of put it in the uniform colors as well, but obviously command is yellow, support is red, science is blue, and I put exploration as white. Although I know it's medical. Before you guys crucify me, I know it's medical, but what medical starships besides here and there do we ever have in Star Trek? We really don't. The one in All Good Things. That's it.
No, there
Pretty
was
much.
one in Discovery when the Red Angel goes to that planet that is about to implode, and she rescues somebody. That was a medical ship.
Okay. No, you're right. As I said, that's what I mean. Like there's just here and there. Anyway. All right. So we're going to go back to the beginning. We're going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to talk about the NX-01. So this one for me is a little interesting because I honestly, this one goes in between for me, command and exploration. Obviously it's exploration because it's the first Warp 5 starship, but it was also kind of like the figurehead of Starfleet.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was the flagship.
It was the flagship at that point. So let's discuss, like, what do you guys think? I mean, yes, it seems clearly an exploration vessel, but you could also argue it's command. So what do you guys
Can you put a photo up, please?
Yes. I actually can't bring it up, but I can move it up here. I don't know if you can see it or not. Can you see it up there?
It's tiny. It's just, never mind. It's okay.
It's the one from Enterprise, the NX-01. I don't know if you... So what do you guys think?
Command.
I was leaning more towards exploration.
Okay.
Just in my opinion.
It's got to be a little bit of everything if it's the first.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well, but because it's also the first, and it's not like it's got a fleet of other ships behind it, I'm going with exploration.
Okay, Major Rage, you have any?
I think command because they put the cutting edge everything on it on the one ship. But okay. I see Zam's point as there's not until late season 3 the Columbia is actually active.
So and you can't even really consider that a fleet. It's still just two ships.
True.
Christine, do you? I know you. I don't know if you're familiar with the NX-01, but
well, based on its age, I'm going to say exploration.
Okay, so we're going to put it in exploration. Captain Archer would be proud.
Alarm says, I guess the NX was as much does as all we can, but not much support capacity. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, definitely not support. And I wouldn't say science. They didn't do much science on the NX-01. Let's be real. All right, so the next ship, I'm guessing, I think in this line is that's on this list. It's kind of dumb, but it's the USS Franklin. It's from the movie Star Trek Beyond. I don't know why it's on here, but I figure we can talk about it. I would.
That's the third Kelvin. That's the third Kelvin movie.
Yes, yeah, the ship that Idris Elba was on.
I think I've only seen that film once, and I might need some. I need some recaps from you guys, if anything.
Basically, Idris Elba was the captain.
I remember that he turned heel.
Yeah, he turned heel. And then his ship crashed, and then. I think they were on a deep space exploration. So I don't
get overtaken by some entity.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. It kind of changed him up a bit, made him superhuman.
Yeah.
I think what I vaguely remember, but I don't know anything about the ship, so I really don't have an opinion. I have to hear what you guys have to say just to maybe come up with a thought.
There was so little of it that we saw, and the thing is that everything that happened in the Kelvin timeline before Nero shows up, everything that happened in Star Trek before that point is the same as the Prime timeline. So all of the events of Enterprise, that's everything that happened there also happened in that timeline. There wasn't that branch until 2233 when Nero showed up and destroyed the Kelvin. So the thing that I don't quite get is how they pigeonholed this ship, the Franklin, into the story, into the whole time, because it really didn't fit. It was they tried to pass it off as it was like a predecessor to, or somehow in parallel to the NX-01, but it wasn't. It was a Warp 4 ship, which you would have thought, okay, well, that probably predates the Warp 5 class of ships. But it honestly, it was just that was not a clean introduction and use of that ship. But I digress. With what little bit we know, other than it was pretty much just kind of shoehorned into the lore, the timeline of the show Enterprise, I would have to say it was probably support.
Okay.
I'm just going to throw.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say something that's slow. It's got to be one of two things: either support or science. It's not exploration. It's not a fighting vehicle. It's not command. It's got to be one of the two.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay with support. I'm okay with exploration. As I said, I didn't make the initial list here. The Franklin was just kind of on here. So I probably could have just skipped it and we would have never even known the difference, but it's fine. What do you guys think? Support?
Sure.
Okay.
No, I'll say support for the hell of it.
Yeah, me too. I'm just like, support.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I've seen all of that movie. If I've seen it, it was on TV.
Yeah, the motorcycle part was more memorable than the Franklin.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, so but that's I think the only outlier that's on here, really. So the next one in the line should be the USS Kelvin. So I don't know. What were they doing? Were they in deep space exploring when the Nero ship showed up, or were they? I can't remember what they were doing in 2009 Star Trek when Nero ship showed up. Were they doing science, or were they doing?
This is the Chris Hemsworth ship, yeah?
Yes, this is the Chris Hemsworth ship.
There was really no time spent into explaining what they were there doing. They were just there.
We should have another category of not specifically, no given title for this kind of ship.
And we can just make it up. I mean,
well, and Starfleet always purports themselves as exploration, science and exploration. So I think if there's any category that's going to end up being the default for ones like that, it would be exploration, because that's pretty much like their first goal.
Yeah, everybody was abandoning ship and stuff like that. They were heading for the hills. It's not like they were. It definitely, I wouldn't put it in command. Yeah, it had families on it and stuff like that. I'd say I'd probably put it as a support ship.
Okay, so exploration, support, Mage. What are your thoughts?
I'm thinking support ship. Like Zam said, there's families and such.
Christine, did you say which one did you say?
I was going to say exploration, like Mage had said earlier. That's kind of the default for the reason we went into space in this.
Okay, so I guess it's up to me to break the tie. I'm going to go with exploration because for some reason I feel like this ship was out in, I don't want to say uncharted territory, but it wasn't in any popular, it wasn't obviously in the Romulus system.
No, it wasn't far from Klingon space.
So, I mean, if it wasn't far from Klingon space, then, I mean, maybe it was a patrol. Well, then maybe it was a patrol vessel. Then, maybe they were doing a patrol. As I said, we are completely inferring at this point. We are making up a
patrol vessel. Would that make it support then?
Then I think it would make it support. Actually, that's what I was going to say. I'm like, if they were near the Klingon border, and they would probably be patrolling the border or doing something along the Klingon border. It's not like they're charting unknown territory. So I'm going to go with support actually.
So when you say support, I had logistics in mind. and resupplies. So support is a little more broad.
Yeah, support like you were saying,
I thought.
like resupply, like any stuff that happens within Federation space is like support. Like like assisting other vessels.
I was still saying
second contact.
Because originally I thought in my mind, sorry, I keep interrupting you. Let me just go real quick. Originally, when I heard that term, I was like, just bringing supplies. So it's a little bit broader. Okay, I'll keep that in mind for the next ships. Sorry.
Okay. So the next one at this point, I believe, would be the USS Discovery. So this one is going to be. So this one's going to be a little bit, I don't want to say cantankerous, but a little bit, I don't know, because some people can say that it's like, I would say it's a science vessel because they were experimenting with the spore drive. They were, but then Section 31 was involved, but it definitely was not an exploration vessel. That's for sure.
I agree with you on that one. I think science is definitely what it was out there for.
So
it's science that ended up having to do multiple roles, but it started off and was designed for science, I believe.
Okay, yeah, it was started off in design, but that's what I was going to actually counterpoint myself with but it did kind of mold into this command ship because of the way they used it in season 2, season 3, and season 4. So I mean, we're not just talking about what it was built for. We're talking about what it was in its show, not just what it was built for. So I mean, go ahead. Whoever's going to talk.
Okay. I think it's command personally. I think regarding Discovery, they've always been like a spearhead in almost everything we've seen them in since its creation, including the Klingon War in the first season, which was paramount, saying the spore drive was a weapon in a way. It wasn't just about exploration of science. It was used for offensive purposes. When you had people like Lurker as well, who was a very aggressive captain. And then obviously what we saw further in the latter seasons, with them leading a way of maybe bringing back Starfleet as well. I mean, it's a spearhead. It's command.
Actually, Zam, I want to interject on that really quick. Actually, I'm looking here. There's actually the Discovery and the Discovery A are two different ships. So actually, for the Discovery, let's keep.
Really?
Yeah. So you're right, like about the Discovery A, which is what it became in the 23rd.
That's the ship. What's his name? Michael ended up just being in the cubicle of that prison, and that was the Discovery A.
No. The Discovery A was when they went to the 32nd century and they refitted the whole ship. They changed it to the Discovery A.
But wasn't it still the same ship, but they just gave it a new name?
Yep. Yeah, they refitted the whole thing, and then they added an A onto it in season 3.
Well, isn't it like, is it the fattiest ship? Isn't it the same concept there? I mean, it's like, come on, regardless, whatever it may be, A or not, it's come on.
Okay. Jefferson, you were saying science, right? Or do you?
That was my first inclination, was to say science for that one.
Okay. Christina, you were saying science?
I say science. Yes, it took on other roles out of necessity. I will say that the A, when it became the ship in the future, I'll give it command then, but not till the future. It only became those other things because it was forced to. But at the same time, when they were doing those other things, they were still expanding their own knowledge, developing new engines, ways of using the spore drive itself.
Okay. And and Mage, what are your thoughts?
I was leaning science, just
Okay.
the spore drive.
All right, so we'll do science. So since we're on the topic of discovery, let's just talk about the A. I know it's out of chronological order, but we're right here, right now. Let's just talk about it. So are we all in agreement that the A is probably more command then, since with the role that it took on in the 32nd century
Yeah, I think that's fair.
or 31st century, whatever? Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll put that one in command. Our first command. Okay. Something's vibrating. Does anyone else hear that?
Yes.
I definitely
Yes,
do.
yeah, I think it might be you, Chris, if you can't hear it.
It might be my furnace. I'll turn off my mic.
Oh, I don't think it. I think it's. Is your phone sitting on something hard?
Hold
Maybe
on.
it's vibrating. The phone. Okay.
Yeah, it's gone now.
Yeah, it's gone now. So
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
Now it's back.
That must be my furnace, and I'm using my new tablet, so it's
No,
not my
it
phone.
only happens when we talk. So I think it only happens when we talk. So I think
feedback a little bit.
feedback or something. Who knows? Yeah, just if you can, just go ahead and keep it muted while when you want to jump in, just unmute yourself. That's fine. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So the next one we are going to jump on is going to be. Let's do the original Connie. Let's do the USS Enterprise. No bloody A or B or C or bloody D. The original Connie class, Captain James T. Kirk. Or no, well, yeah, let's just do it. We're gonna do all three Connies like in a row. Right?
First, wasn't it?
It was, yes. It was the flagship, but it also was on a 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds. So
exploration.
So but in the context of the show that it was in, how do we feel it places? I don't feel like they did a lot of science. Like, I feel like they probably would fit in between. Honestly, they did a lot of support work because the Enterprise was going around doing a lot of like going to star bases and picking things up and, transporting delegates and all this so, I mean, it could fall in command support or exploration. So
I would say that with the Enterprise D, but I'm not sure about the original.
Go ahead, Christine. Sorry.
Exploration. Sorry, definitely exploration for the first one. That was their mission.
Okay.
Sorry, that's what it was designed for.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was exploration. 100%, and boy, did they explore.
Okay, exploration. Were you saying Jefferson exploration as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my feeling.
Not that it matters, but Mage, we want to hear your opinion. No, not okay. That sounded really bad. It's already 3. It's already 3-2. So that's why it doesn't mirror me. So we still want to hear your opinion, but in the context of voting.
The vote's over. I concur, though. It's absolutely a vessel of exploration. The 5-year mission, all that good stuff. And I agree with Olam. The exploration cruisers, they, maximum does all, including, all the support stuff, carrying delegates.
Mm-hmm.
So, stuff that, like Zam said, the D will end up doing.
I've got some. I've actually got some. I think we need to talk about the D later, but yeah. That sounded bad too. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about the Discovery Enterprise. Based on the 2 seasons of Strange New World, and well, we really haven't seen much of it. But Discovery season 2, it wasn't in too much of it. It was in like 2 episodes. But based on what we saw in Discovery season 2 and the Strange New World season 1 and 2, are we still thinking it fits exploration, science, support, or command?
Damn.
See, that's where I'm like each of these ships kind of within the context of their own shows. Sometimes it's because season 2. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
Sometimes the problem with Strange New World is not necessarily the problem. That's the wrong term. But it was more of an internal show regarding the characters and some of the shenanigans they got up with, like Spock's love life and shit like that. And some of the mindsets of particular characters, obviously Pike knowing his own future and all of these sort of things. And there were episodes to do with exploration. We did get that. I mean, when it came to them going to strange new worlds and all of that. but it never really necessarily felt enough. So it's really hard to decipher and pigeonhole Enterprise. Sorry, Discovery's Enterprise. I'd like to hear what other people have to say. In my opinion.
All right, Jefferson.
I make my opinion.
So when you say Discovery's Enterprise, we're talking
well,
about the role also for Strange New Worlds. Like,
Yes.
we're not trying to differentiate how we saw it in Discovery and
No.
how, okay. To be honest with you on that, I'm going to say Command.
Okay. Christine, what do you think about Strange New Worlds? You muted. You're still muted. There you go.
So I'm still getting used to my tablet. I'm going with Command.
Okay. Mirror Mage?
A science vessel. So many of the situations that they end up having to diffuse, they do so with some, funky engineering or sciencing their way out of it. That seems to be more of a recurring type of situation than any sort of exploration.
Gotcha. Well, in season 2, and I'll come to you in 1 second, Christine. In season 2, they really only went when they went to New Worlds. Somebody broke it down like 3 times out of a 10 episode season. So, yeah, I definitely would say Commander Science. Go ahead, Christine.
Okay, I'd say Command, even though Mage, you have some really good points. Command is going to use everything at their disposal to get the objective done. So yes, they're going to have to jerry-rig things. They're going to have to do experiments. They're going to have find new ways over problems and solve issues. But I'm still going with Command.
Okay.
And is it still buzzing now?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It sounds like you got a nightclub underneath you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's only when we talk, so it's got to be some kind of reverberation or something like that when sound is coming from your phone.
You got any headphones, Chris? Oh, fair enough.
Okay, it's okay. I mean, as long as you're okay with muting and unmuting yourself, we're good.
I don't mind, but I turned it upside down. Does that make a difference? Because it's on wood.
Okay, it's still there. I can hear it when I talk.
Yeah.
Bad wood.
So I think the votes were Command. Okay, so I'm gonna.
I mean, yeah. Just so you know, but I never made my opinion. But after listening to everybody else, yeah, I'll go with Command.
Okay.
My decision was going to be made by hearing everybody else's verdicts.
Okay, and I mean, it's as I said, it could go. Honestly, I felt like it could go in almost any of these categories. So, but yeah, I Command is good. Okay, so let's do the Kelvin. Now we're doing the Kelvin Enterprise. We'll start with Mage this time. What do you think?
Command vessel.
Command. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Command. I mean, they were pretty much wham bam, thank you, ma'am, throughout. Like they were nuts in all 3 movies.
I don't even think they technically went into uncharted territory at any given point, did they? Like in the 3 movies? And I know that's not fair because it's only 3 movies.
Beginning of the second movie when they're breaking the Prime Directive, that was some sort of
was that in like Uncharted World? I thought it was like a protected world because they were pre-warp, but
Well, all we know is that it was pre-warp, so that it's tough to infer from that if it means they first discovered it or if it was already known about. All we know about it is that it was pre-warp. It could have been an existing, previously explored catalog. Like, yeah, we know of this planet, and then at some point later, oh shit, there's a volcano.
Could be just a pit stop, even. But I mean, we got hardly any Enterprise in Star Trek Beyond. But they fucking destroyed it. So
I did not add the Enterprise A in the Kelvin universe, obviously, because
go
ahead, Christine.
Are you talking about the planet being pre-warp? or us being pre-warp? I'm sorry, because I haven't watched them.
Oh, no, the planet that they were on was pre-warp. We were debating like minutia. I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
right word. I don't know if that's the right use of that word, but it sounded good.
It sounded
All right, so
accurate,
then technically, chronologically, the next one on this list is the USS Excelsior. Originally, the transwarp baby of the Federation that utterly failed, and then commanded by the exceptional Captain Sulu in Star Trek VI. Christine, I'll start with you with this one if you want. Nope. Okay. Jefferson, we'll start with you with this one.
Oh boy, with the Excelsior, I am inclined to say exploration, and here's why. Because when the Excelsior was really at its the original Excelsior was really getting into its peak was during was after the Cold War with the Klingons. So there was, and then that's when we got into the period of Starfleet where they sort of went all lackadaisical and just started churning out science and exploration ships. So with the Excelsior, I would have to say that its role quickly became exploration.
Okay. Dam, do you have a?
Excelsior was in Star Trek 3 when the Enterprise got stolen, correct?
Yes, and Star Trek 6 with Captain Sulu.
And in a way, Sulu ended up supporting the Enterprise when they were under fire, but still, it's a different type of support. They were under fire and they were basically there to kick ass. The Excelsior in Star Trek 3 was basically there to chase down a stolen Enterprise. So from what I've only seen of the Excelsior, it comes across to me as a command ship.
Okay. I actually want to go with science because what they were doing in Star Trek 6 at the beginning when they came across Praxis explosion was they were charting nebulas and they were studying them. So you can put that in like science or exploration, but I don't think they were in uncharted territory with those nebulas. I think they were still within Federation space. So when Praxis exploded, they were kind of doing, I would say, science-y things. So I'm going to say science. So I think we've got, so Jefferson, what were you? You were exploration?
I was exploration.
Dam was command. I was science. Okay, Major Rage. Come on, pick support. Make it so Christine has to break the tie.
No, I'm not gonna do that to her because I'm gonna stick to my guns. I say science, and because to my mind, well, I agree with what you said. That is what they were doing, but All 6 is my favorite TOS movie, like hands down. Like I love that one.
That's why we get along so well.
I remember that. I remember it more than the others, even Khan for some reason.
I love it for Kirk's prejudice towards the Klingon. I loved it for that. It was just great.
It did a great job of looking at. It humanizes both characters. It shows bigotry and prejudice in a great way.
You hear that? Mage says bigotry and prejudice is a great way.
God.
We know what he's saying in a detailed way.
Yes. It explores it well. It explores the topic in an intellectual manner well. But no, experimental propulsion to me screams science vessel, and transwarp was experimentary propulsion.
See, Mage, you made the mistake of thinking that people here were not juvenile, and I'm not going to make a comment because I didn't see this ship. I don't know it, so
okay. Well, and I mean that's fine. As I said, it's only in 2 movies, and its role in one of them is actually quite minor. They make a big deal out of it, but really it is a minor point of the movie. Okay. So the next one is the HMS Bounty. This is the Klingon bird of prey that Kirk and crew hijacked and took back in time to go in the one with the whales is what they call it. So,
Star Trek 3 and 4 is in Star Trek 3 as well. People forget that.
yeah, it's in Star. Yeah, that's the ship that they hijacked in Star Trek 3, and then they
exactly.
took back in Star Trek 4. So, okay, hold on one second. We got a couple comments here I want to actually talk about, or not talk about, but bring up before we move on to the bounty. Sorry. I'm just going to call you Drab. Sorry. Drab says a lot of scientific study isn't very movie worthy to cover about the daily grind too. This is true. Captain's log stardate 1523.5. We are still parked next to the spectacular nebula and the Boffin and the Boffins. That's supposed to be the Boffins are still on the isotope counts. Are still on about the, what is that from? Is that from Lower Decks? It sounds like a Lower Decks line.
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, so the HMS Bounty. This one's going to be odd, but I figured I'd leave it in because technically it was the star of its whole Star Trek movie. So we kind of have to talk about it. Zam, I'll start with you this time.
I think it's a piece of cake. It's a Klingon fucking shit, for fuck's sake. It's got to be Command. I mean, like, what else can it be? Seriously. I mean, and you have to remember where it was used initially in Star Trek 3. It was, oh God, I forget the name of the character Christopher Lloyd played, but he was no fucking support or science or exploration captain. That guy wanted blood, and he got it, but unfortunately, yeah, it's Command. Remember, you got to remember its origins, regardless of it being in Star Trek 4. It's where it started in Star Trek 3. It's a Command ship.
All right, go ahead, Christine. You're muted.
You're muted.
It's a Klingon bird of prey, right? So it's Command. They don't
but just keep in mind, I'm saying I also said how the ship was used in its materia. God, what the.
Been talking about too much Final Fantasy.
I have been playing way too much Final Fantasy, but it's how it was used. So, I'm going to say support because it transported whales through time. It transported cargo to save the planet. So I'm going to say it's a support vessel.
If I can,
sorry.
If I could just add to that, I think the ship. I don't know how old that ship is. But even maybe on its last days, it ended up being that support vessel and doing that humanitarian thing. I think for most of that ship's longevity, it was a Command ship.
Okay, I don't doubt. Like I'm not discounting that at all. You're right.
Yeah.
It was a Klingon ship for its entire life.
Yeah,
like up until that point. So I'm not. If people vote against me, that's fine. But I still think it's a support ship technically. Once it was taken over by Jim Kirk and the crew. Okay, Jefferson or Christine, go ahead really quick, and then Jefferson. You're muted again. You're still muted.
You muted, Chris. You muted, Chris.
Keep double tapping it. Sorry, you can have tap shoes and do a lot of tap dancing because that's what they're for, and occasionally soft shoe in them. Doesn't make them soft shoes. They're still tap shoes, man.
Yeah, like I'm a cab driver. I'm not a delivery driver, but I've done a bit of delivery now and again. You see what I'm saying? I'm able to do. I'm able to do more than one thing. I can save fucking whales, or I can blow the shit out of them. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, but no one's arguing with you.
Okay.
All right, Jefferson, go ahead.
Well, Star Trek 3 it was Command. Star Trek 4 it was support.
So which one was it more though? I mean,
Support.
Okay. So 2 Command, 2 support. Major Rage, it's time for you to break the tie again.
Oh man.
He's like, I'm gonna pick science.
I want it's a command vessel, just a Klingon cruiser, B, just they're accomplishing the mission. Like it's a goal. Like it's Jim Kirk taking unilateral action and doing a thing. It's a command vessel.
It's okay, Jefferson. We can be right in solidarity.
I'm okay with that. That's fine.
All right. So anyway, all right. So after all the events of Star Trek 4, we now move on to the Enterprise A, the Connie class that was originally the USS Yorktown converted to the USS Enterprise because Starfleet likes to rename ships willy-nilly like that. So based on the 2 movies it was in, Mage, I'm going to start with you this time since you ended last time. What do you think the refit Enterprise A is from Star Trek's 5 and 6?
Okay.
And at the end of 4.
I'm not really. I've not seen 5.
You've never seen 5?
Never seen 5.
Oh,
no way!
God bless you.
Yeah, that's the one where they meet God, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen that one. I count my lucky stars. I've never seen that one.
Yeah,
in 6, I'd say from what I saw of it in 6, I would say Command, but my vote should be like a half vote.
Okay, Christine, what do you think that from Star Trek's 5 and 6?
Never seen them.
Oh, okay. Jefferson?
I'm going to go with Command.
Okay, that's 2 Command. Zam?
It's funny because in Star Trek 5, it was a fucking flying bucket of bolts, wasn't it? It was the ship was like falling apart, or not even falling apart, but it just wasn't running well. But I guess at that particular period, you saw like how naval like Starfleet was then with their uniforms and where they were with the Klingons. I think pretty much all the ships around that period were pretty much in that command category. So yeah, I'll go with command as well.
Okay. And I tend to agree. It would be a command, even though it was escorting the chancellor of the Klingon Empire. It's still, that was circumstantial. I still felt like it was more of a command ship at that point anyway. All right. So go ahead, Christine.
Have a dignitary, you're going to want them on a command ship if you're escorting them, right?
Yeah, I mean they were on their own ship. They were just but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's still got to be the flagship of the Federation should be escorting them. Which I never get why the Enterprise is always the flagship. It just makes no sense. Anyway, we can talk about that some other time. All right, so we've only seen a little bit of the Enterprise B, but there is some extended lore out there. If anyone's familiar with it, we can bring that up. But based on what we saw in Star Trek Generations, so the Enterprise B, what are we thinking? I'm going to start with Jefferson this time.
Hell if I know. Okay, if I had to just throw something out, I'm going to say the Enterprise B was probably intended on. I always kind of feel like science and exploration could kind of be the same thing. I mean, you have pure science vessels like the Grissom, but you have multi-role ships. And when it comes to the Enterprise B, not just the Enterprise B, but a lot of these ships could fill multiple roles. But if I had to guess anything for the Enterprise B, I'm going to say that the purpose of it was probably also intended for exploration.
Okay. Christine, go ahead.
I would agree with you because it is sort of, they interconnect. Like you've got to explore to do the science. So I'm gonna agree with Jefferson.
All right, Zam.
I don't know. For some reason, I think with the inexperienced crew that took over, which obviously needed the help of the old heads when shit hit the fan, they never really seem like they were going to ever be in the command category. But this big bulky ship that could always be there to maybe back somebody up, they seem like a support ship. So that's the vibe I was getting out of it. I have no fucking idea. It could be science or exploration. If somebody told me the law.
That's what I'm saying. With some of these ships, we are just kind of inferring a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So my vibe and my gut tells me support.
Okay. Major Rage?
So hard to say. I could this time I could be contrary and say command. Just be contrary, have a 4-way tie. It's an everything ship.
Well, to say, I think Christine said exploration. Jefferson said exploration. Sam said support.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So you could say command, but then I mean I could break the tie. I know what I'm going to say, but I just letting everybody else go around.
It's hard to put in there. It fits more science or exploration than anything. I was just trying to troll for a second. I'm gonna go exploration vessel.
Okay. I was actually going to agree with Zam and say support. I feel like the Excelsior is a great support vessel that it's not a combat vessel. You know what I mean? Like it's not a combat vessel at all.
Mhm.
And I feel like, and we'll get into this actually in one of the next couple ships. I feel like it's too bulky technically to be a exploration vessel. Science, it didn't seem built for science, but it could do science. But that's why I think it's a good support vessel. Like it can tout the line throughout the entire Federation within its borders. But I don't think it was built for like
What's the name of the class of that of the Enterprise B? What's the class called?
Excelsior. It's an Excelsior class.
No. Oh, that's what it's called, Excelsior class. Because like when the Enterprise D crashed in Generations, it was classes of that ship which basically which picked up the Enterprise crew, wasn't it?
No, there was a Nebula class,
A Miranda,
and
an Oberth.
Yeah, no, Berth.
God.
Yeah.
Sounds delicious.
I know.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think what was it? Three on. It was 3 exploration and 2 support, right?
I believe so.
Okay, so it's exploration. Okay, the Enterprise C. I'm going to come right out the gate and say, based on what we know with this ship, again, I think it's a support vessel. I don't think it was doing any exploration, deep space exploration, or anything like that. So
well, considering it's part of that naval period of Starfleet, and they were wearing those uniforms, I'm more inclined to go with command.
Okay,
it
Jefferson?
was.
Oh, was that you, Mage?
Yeah, that's the one from yesterday's Enterprise, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, he's wearing the big maroon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's command. It's Kelsey Grammer's ship's a command vessel.
No, it's not Kelsey Grammer's ship. Kelsey Grammer was
the Bozeman.
The Bozeman.
The Bozeman. You're Jesus. Okay. Wow.
Really?
It's the warship.
Yeah, no, Rachel Garrett was the
Captain Garrett of the
sea. I'm sorry. I made that mistake as well. I have no fucking idea what the Enterprise C is then.
From yesterday's Enterprise, it was the one that came through time and it changed history. Tasha Yar was back, and then she went back through time with the Enterprise C, and then apparently Tasha Yar was captured, and then by the Romulans.
I remember bits and pieces of that, but I still don't remember the Enterprise C at all.
It's an ambassador class. As I said, it's built like a smaller Excelsior almost, in my opinion.
I need to Google it.
But I think it's a support. What did you say it was, Mate? What did you think it was?
Command. I mean, they're at war.
Jefferson, have you gone yet on this one?
Well, the ship they weren't at the Federation wasn't at war. In the alternate timeline, it was, but we're talking about the Enterprise C's proper placement.
Okay.
And it was lost in 2344. And during that time of Starfleet, that's again during the decadent age of science and exploration, where there were really no major powers that were posing that much of a challenge or threat to the Federation. So on them, I would be inclined to say support for the Enterprise C.
Yeah, because I think they were close to the neutral zone. So obviously they were within Federation space. And if any of these ships, in my opinion, are hanging out in Federation space, I don't feel like they're exploration vessels. If they're already within Federation space, that's why I lean towards support for that kind. So okay, so so I was support, Jefferson was support, Mage, what were you again? Command?
After listening to the arguments, Jefferson put it really well. I'll go support, because I was thinking of it more as the way we saw it presented in yesterday's Enterprise, but thinking of it as it was originally intended and what it was actually doing before all of the shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go support.
Okay.
I'm going to go for support, but I can't remember jack shit. But I'll go with support.
Christine, did you want to chime in on this one at all? Okay, go ahead.
I don't recall it, but Cheeto, you swayed me when you said it was in the neutral zone and there wasn't, so it's not going off and exploring. You're not going to be doing science in the neutral zone. You won me with the support vehicle.
All right. So the next one we are running into is the Enterprise D, the big D, baby. So let's start with Zam on this one. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about this one.
Because of the series, I mean, E and D, I have different opinions on both of those ones, but because of the series and how they were, and they seem to do it was way more. There was way more diplomacy when it came to when it came to TNG. Obviously, the science and explorations were there as well, and that's just a trait for Starfleet, regardless. Sometimes you've got to be that command ship. Sometimes you've got to explore science a lot. But I think there's so much politics involved in TNG. I'm putting Enterprise D as a support ship.
Okay. Jefferson?
Wow. The Galaxy class ships were made as multi-role vessels, and really they were designed and built to handle all of that. But I'm going to say that out of all the ships, that the Galaxy class ships could fit every one of those roles, but because the Enterprise D was the flagship, I will differentiate that by saying command.
Okay. Christine, do you the Enterprise D?
Yeah, Zam, I agree and disagree with you. I think it was getting people and diplomacy and politics, but instead of being support for that reason, I'm going to go with command. Not only that, when Jefferson was talking and saying how it was plastic that had all these things at its disposal, command structure would have all the bells and whistles. So I'm going with command.
Okay. Major Rage.
It's a command vessel all the way. It's the flagship of the Enterprise of the Federation in arguably its heyday, before they start having to deal with the Borg and the Dominion. It's at its height. It's a command vessel. It does all the things better than any other class of ship yet wrought, and it's got the biggest guns, biggest shields, and they put the most important people on it or near it.
And this is a discussion for a different day, but actually I totally disagree with everyone here except Zam. I think it's a support vessel because it hangs out a lot in Federation space. It does do some exploration, but it always seems like, and when you guys say that it's a flagship, I never understood why the Enterprise D was a flagship of the Federation. Why would the flagship of the Federation be so far removed from everything going on? I think they called it the flagship of the Federation because they didn't understand what what a flagship was. A flagship is supposed to be the point of, like, for an entire armada or a fleet. It's that point ship. You know what I mean? And like, I know that's different.
I thought it was the lead ship was that ship, and like the flagship is your biggest, baddest vessel, the most advanced.
Well, there were plenty of Galaxy class ships before the Enterprise D. So there was the Odyssey. I think technically the Odyssey was commissioned before the Enterprise D. Obviously the USS Galaxy.
There's a Galaxy, the Yamato, then the Enterprise D.
Was it those three? Okay, I thought it was the Odyssey, but Yamato. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know, and there were originally 6 in batch 1 of Galaxy class ships. There were 6. Because I just watched this thing on YouTube about the Galaxy class, and I forgot where the where in the order the Odyssey was. If it was like fifth or sixth in that first batch or something. But I know the first three is definitely the Galaxy, the Yamato, and the Enterprise D.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, but I knew Odyssey was right around that. Go ahead, Christine.
I'm going to agree with Mage. I don't care if it was the first of its class or not. At its time, at its peak, it had all the biggest, baddest weapons, all the bells and whistles. So it was the display ship. It was the flagship, right? It didn't mean it had to be the lead ship in a battle. It just had to be the prettiest, the greatest.
Well, yeah, maybe, but they did a lot of upgrades on the Enterprise too. So I mean, obviously, it wasn't that great. Anyway.
I just want to say that like I just realized that my argument could be both for support and command. It works both ways. So, but yeah, I just never saw them, even though they did have their moments of like of pew pews. Things just always seem to be dealt with verbally more than aggressively. So that's how I see things. But anyway, yeah. Either way, it works either way. I can see this, my same argument being used for command as well as support. So,
and I mean, let's be real. Like for how much that ship did on the show, you could argue probably for any of these categories for it, literally. But okay, so gonna move on now to Deep Space Nine. I know it's not a ship.
So can I just ask, is Khan ship from Star Trek 2 on this list?
No,
Shocker. We got the fucking Franklin, and we ain't got that shit.
That's ridiculous. I did. Honestly, I didn't think about the Reliant, and this list was kind of pre-made. I added a couple ships to it, and I didn't think about it.
If we could mention that ship, even though it's not going to be on the list, from what I remember, even though it ended up being a gunship for Khan, I think it was a science ship.
I think it was more of a support ship, actually. Right? I mean, I know it was I know they were looking for Genesis, like places for Genesis to go. So I think they were basically just toting the scientists around.
And that's the whole point of the science part, isn't it? Because of Genesis.
I still don't think it was. They weren't performing the science on the ship, though. The science was actually happening on the station. They were just toting around the Genesis scientists looking for David was on the Reliant while they were, scoping out potential.
Things. So the scientists are still technically sciencing.
Yeah, people like David and stuff. They were like actual science. They were not officers in any regard.
All right. So, hey, I mean that's fine.
It's a shocker that ship's not on this list, considering what we got here.
As I said, I would have, if I could actually take things off the list, I would have taken the Franklin off and put the Reliant on.
I think Christine wants to say something.
Yeah, Chris, you're on mute.
Christine, sorry.
Science, because yes, support vehicles are very important, but you got to admit, for a show, you're not going to generally have a lot of those movies and the series because they're not that exciting. So I would err on the side of caution and go with science on that one. And not only it was doing sciencey things.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, while you guys were talking, or at least I was trying to. What in the world is this thing doing? Never mind. I was going to try to add it to the list, but my computer's being stupid. It won't let me add it right now. So whatever. Okay. So the Reliant is. We'll say the Reliant's under
science.
Okay, sure.
Sorry, Jefferson, will you agree with that as well? Like, we never got your opinion
on the Reliant being science. If I put it anywhere, it would be science.
But it ended up being a command ship by the end, just so you know. So, just going by your bounty logic, from what it was to what it ended up being, would you still say it's a science vessel, regardless of it changing into a command ship under Khan?
Well, again, I think that that's tricky because we're trying to take. All right, so it started this way, but it then ended that way. Well, which one counts? How it started or how it ended? Which makes it tricky to classify that one, but if I were to go with what was the majority use, well, at least majority of what we had seen of it, I could be swayed to say command.
Fair enough. At least you're sticking to your guns. Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. So we're saying science, or are we saying okay?
Science.
All right. So Deep Space Nine.
Chris.
Oh, go ahead.
I only caught the last end of that conversation, and I too find it hard to clarify because you're right. Ships start off as a certain class, but then morph into other classes. And the way I'm trying to judge it, and it might help you and it might not help you, is that if it starts off as a command ship, it's going to be a command ship always in my mind, because a command ship can have multifacets with it. But if it starts as a science ship that is forced into other roles, again, unless it drastically changed, it's meant to be a science ship.
I mean, that's pretty much. Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, it doesn't make it easier.
No, look, pretty much all the ships are capable of being all four, but just some are better at doing it than others when it comes to whatever the category may be. You know, science ships are not the best at being a command ship, but I'm sure like they have got weapons on them if they need to defend themselves. Whilst other ships are more better at being aggressive than they are maybe being explorationary. So yeah.
The only exception to that, I'm going to agree with you, Sam, even though I said something different like 2 seconds ago. The only exception to that rule, I'm going to say, is command. Command is always command. They can expand other parts as needed in aid of the command, like if they need to go out further and explore, do science to improve their drive all of a sudden, because they're still command. So that's the only, I think, category in my mind that doesn't change, no matter how strong the other categories might develop within that ship, like exploration or science or support. But you're right, the other ships is so hard. The other types of ships can morph.
All right. Drab says Reliant is quite well gunned as a design, even if it's so
it did fucking put Enterprise in their place for a bit.
I think that's all. I think there was other factors there. I think because they got the jump on them.
Yeah, they got the jump on them as well. Yeah.
And I mean, let's be real. Like Starfleet's never been the best at combat prowess, at least not in the movies. Okay. So Deep Space Nine. I know it's not a ship, but I'm including it because it is a.
But it can warp. It can move. It doesn't have to be stationary, does it? You know, it can.
No, in the first episode, they move it from orbit of Bajor over to the wormhole, which was still a good distance away from the actual Bajoran planet. So I'll start with this one because I love DS9. This obviously is a support. Let's be real. Like ships come to it, ships resupply on it. It's a support. It's a support vehicle, or I don't want to say vessel, but you know what I mean. Mage, what do you think?
Support station for sure.
Support station, yeah. Christine?
Think of it like an army base. That's what the army base is there for. You're not fighting the war in the base. You have all the supplies there. It holds the people, the beans, the bullets, the boots, right? It's definitely support.
Okay. Jefferson?
Support.
And Zam.
It's a shopping mall in space with a fucking food court and casino and bar. Goddamn support. You know what I mean?
Mage, why are you putting zeros?
I don't know. I was hitting back key. Sorry.
We have army bases too, so that's not unusual. That they're hitting the nose, the head on the nail, the nose, the whatever.
All right. Next, I'm going to start with Jefferson. We're going to talk about the USS Defiant.
Oh,
just so you guys know, I'm going to kind of move through these a little bit faster, just because I'm trying to keep us under an hour and a half. You know, so I mean,
yeah. Let's burn through these. The Defiant was built for one purpose: to fight the Borg. So it's purely a warship. That's what it was intended to be. That's what it was always supposed to be. So I'm going to say Command for this one.
Defiant. Remind me to Defiant again. Why am I
From
blanking
Deep
on
Space Nine, the
so,
warship
the
like
little ship. Yeah,
your little
No,
ship.
the
You look at it
USS
crossways, and it just almost explodes.
Yeah, the USS F Captain Picard is what Cisco wants to name it.
Yeah. The little
The
ship
Sao
is
Paulo.
as Picard says it was. It's funny in a way because it feels like it's like the smaller brother of of a larger fleet, but it is a command ship because it's supposed to kick ass. So yeah, it doesn't feel like the term command doesn't really necessarily fit a ship of that size and what it is supposed to do. It's basically like infantry. You know, if anything, if there was another term for it, that's what it would be. Like go out there and shoot the fuck out of everything, but you're not necessarily.
But then
in charge.
wouldn't that be support? Like if all the ships, I think the thing that makes it a command is that Cisco's on the ship, and he's kind of one of the figureheads of.
Point, yeah.
He's one of the figureheads in the Dominion War. He was the right-hand man of Admiral Ross. So, and I mean, it was a tough little ship. So, I mean, you know, that kind of.
Yeah, you're right. I'll stick with command, though. Yeah, you're right.
All right. I would also say command. Mage, did you
Command
say
ship?
Okay. And Christine?
Because there's no warrior ship class on here, the only other logical way to put this in is command ship, because even though it's only 170 meters long, it was designed to fight. It's not designed to support and bring materials to the people fighting. That's what support is. It wasn't a sciencey thing. It wasn't exploration. So the only category it can go in is command here. For me, that's a no-brainer.
You know, for the Federation being all about exploration and science is looking pretty crappy right about now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so USS Voyager. Zam, I'm starting with you with this one, buddy. This is This is your ship.
Well, look, you have to understand that this ship wasn't supposed to be in the situation it ended up being throughout its 7 seasons.
Correct.
So, and with the captain they had on board, who was tough. I remember, like people like Chakotay stuff. They were criminals on the run. You know, they were part of the Marquis. But they had to come together for a greater cause. I'm going with exploration. That's what the ship was supposed to be, and obviously ended up having a big jack of all trades. You know, you can't really call it a command ship to a degree because it was on its own out there, and it did do some of the support stuff as well. And they did obviously, actually, I will go. Oi! Sorry, I've covered them as well. Look, I covered them, and they still. Anyway. I'll go with exploration because that time when they did, through Barclay, when they managed to communicate with each other, the amount of information they gave back to the Alpha Quadrant regarding the Delta Quadrant was fundamental, and that was from the exploration. So yeah, it's an exploration ship, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, I will also agree. Exploration, Major Rage.
Zam said it perfectly.
All right, Christine.
Thank you.
No, I disagree. It was forced into exploration. They didn't choose to go to the Delta Quadrant. They were forced into sciencing, real hard sciencing, just to survive. And they were not supporting other vessels in any way. So,
Whoa. What do you think of the command ship? That ship was. Okay. You think it was supposed to you think that ship was supposed to go around running and gunning?
I mean, it kind of did in some points. I mean,
no.
We always had our finger on the phaser button.
You think that no. In the Alpha Quadrant, that ship's supposed to be, because even in the Delta Quadrant, it was an exploration ship. But no, don't get me wrong, they were running and gunning as well in the Delta Quadrant. They had to. They were surviving. They came across all types of terrible enemies, and they were on their own. But the ship itself was an exploration ship, because whether it be in the Delta Quadrant or the Alpha Quadrant, that's what it was. You know, they weren't an offensive ship in the first place.
I mean, it originally was designed to be a science ship, but I agree with Sam that the fact that for the majority of its run, because we're not talking about what the ship was originally intended to be. We're talking about what the ship, within the context of what we've seen of it on the show, was. So that's why I think exploration. But I mean, I think it's a science ship based on the way it was built. But I also think it was. But as I said, I think it was forced into exploration. So
was forced into command, and as a result of them being isolated, they were forced into doing other things, and they were the only ones there. So they were at the top. They were the leaders of themselves, and they had to use all those other assets to get their ass home.
okay.
Yes, they were designed and started off as exploration, and they ended up doing that. But they had to take in order to get home. You have to command.
Okay. Jeff, I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, you are right in the aspect that they were forced into a command position. I just feel like there was more exploration rather than command. So it's okay. Like, command is fine. All right, Jefferson, what do you think?
For Voyager?
Yeah.
Science vessel.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I think. Wait, what did you say it was?
Exploration
vessel.
Okay, so we're okay. So unfortunately, yeah, it is exploration. So, but science, it also did science and command things.
Yep.
All right, Enterprise E. I'm gonna Mage. I'm gonna start with you with this one.
Sorry. Is it Delta Flyer in this?
Oh, the Delta. It's a shuttle. I mean, I can put it in here, but it's a support ship. Like it's a shuttle.
Hot rod.
Yeah, it's a hot rod. It's a support, just like the runabouts on DS9.
Fair enough. I mean, I would put it as a support ship, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
Flyer is
search.
absolutely a support ship.
Yeah.
Because there were times when they would separate themselves from the Enterprise and do their own shit. It wasn't like a shuttle.
I didn't know the Enterprise had a Delta Flyer.
Sorry, not the Enterprise, the Voyage. You know what I mean? Yeah, like that time when Harry Kim was going ape shit on the fucking other guys in his crew, but they spent too long with each other and they're having too much cabin fever. It can be on its own. I think it can survive on its own if it had to.
I'm still going to runabout. I mean,
well, in one episode when Chakotay and Kim were in the future and they were on the Delta Flyer, I believe. Am I correct or am I wrong?
No, I think they were on the Delta Flyer. They didn't have the
15 years into the future.
I say they had to use that same set because they wouldn't build them a new set for another ship.
Yeah, fair enough. But I'm glad they did that. But it kind of showed you, how flexible the Delta Flyer is. That it can be its own ship without needing a big brother ship around it. If you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
The Flyer was awesome.
Christine.
Yeah.
Okay. Support all the way. I mean, yes, Sam, there was a couple incidents where they were forced into adapting and overcoming for sure, and they did a great job. But it was designed and 99% of the time used for support. It was the
I agree. I agree with you. It's a support ship. I'm just saying it's not like a ship that is. We're not talking about shuttles here. We're talking about proper ships here, which can be on its own without the requirement of a big brother ship like a Voyager or an Enterprise or whatever. So that's how I'm looking at it. So yeah, it's support in my opinion.
All right. Okay. Enterprise E. Did I say I was going to start with Mage this time, or right? Yeah. Go ahead, Mage. Enterprise E. The Worf's favorite Enterprise.
He likes the guns of it. We don't see the command.
You don't see the command, or you're saying it's command?
I'm going to say command.
Okay. Christine, Enterprise E from the movies.
Don't recall.
Okay. Jefferson?
Yeah, the Next Generation movies, Christine. Like
First Contact, Insurrection, Nemesis.
Interaction, Nemesis.
Okay.
No.
Jefferson?
Command.
Okay. Zam?
Command 100%. Like every time we saw one of the TNG movies and we saw that ship, it was blowing shit up. You know what I mean? It was,
yeah.
Yeah, they were crashing into other ships and stuff like that. One of my favorite scenes is from Nemesis, where he crashes the Enterprise into the fucking Romulan war, whatever that thing was. Like
The
Yeah,
Scimitar.
without
Yes.
doubt. It was a brutal. I love the Enterprise. It's a brutal, badass ship, blowing up Borgs, blowing up everything. It was great stuff. You want your pew pews, you got it with the Enterprise, without a
I
doubt.
totally agree, but I agree it's a command ship. Yep. All right, now we are going to talk about the
Christine.
Go ahead, Christine.
Sorry, I keep putting my hand up with the mic thing. I was just going to say, at least I have a bunch of films that I get to watch for the first time.
Oh yeah, definitely catch all the, especially Star Trek V and the motion picture. Those are the best ones ever. Mage loves them. They're in his top two.
And Star Trek Beyond Darkness, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Just watch them all. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. You'll live. Just
You'll
breathe
get some
really
turds
deep.
in there.
Just breathe really deep, and you'll make it through it. Okay. The quintessential support ship ever. I mean, I think we'll all agree the Cerritos support.
Support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, support. I mean, its whole premises was it being second contact and shit like that. He said it from the get go. It's support without a doubt.
All right, Christine, do you any thoughts? Yep, support. Okay, okay. The Zam's favorite ship, the USS Prodigy. Actually, I don't know if it's your favorite ship, but I know you
Is
like
there a ship called the Prodigy?
the USS Prodigy. Yeah, the ship that
No, the ship's the Protostar.
Star.
Oh, the
Yeah,
Protostar. You're
The
right.
name of the ship's
Yeah,
Protostar.
Sorry. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, you're talking down to me for a second. Like, what? Like, there's a ship called the Prodigy.
Yes, yeah. I'm sorry. The USS Protostar. You are correct. I'm sorry. Zam, go ahead. Start it off.
It's really hard to say what this ship is because it's still a bit of an enigma to a degree from what we got because Chakotay used it, I believe, in the past and it ended up in the. I'm not even sure if that's the case. I think it's exploration.
Okay.
But it's capable of doing more because it's such an advanced ship. It's a super advanced ship. But I think it's if you had to pinpoint it, probably exploration. But it could be a command ship, it could be a support ship, science ship. It's capable of being all of that because of how advanced it is.
Okay, Jefferson.
For this one, I'm going to say support ship.
Okay, so you said exploration support. Christine, do you have a? Okay, Major Rage.
Not seen it. Sorry.
Oh, that's right, you haven't. So support exploration. I'm for the purposes of the show, I'm going to go with exploration just because they kind of just wandered and they were kind of, as I said, within the context of the Prodigy show, it was them just kind of wandering around trying to make it to Federation space, and that what?
I actually agree with you because I never really thought it from that perspective. My perspective was what it was it built for initially when Chakotay got it, but what we saw fundamentally from it was these kids exploring, and so I can only go by what we saw it being used for, which is exploration.
That's how it was booked to me, to my perspective. What I had seen of it seemed booked to be an exploration vessel.
Mm-hmm. All right, the next one, the USS Titan. We've seen a little bit of this in Lower Decks and probably mention of it in Extended Canon, but I'll start off with this one. I'm going to go and also Star Trek Resurgence, the game, which I loved. I'm going to go with support. I think the Titan is absolutely a support vessel. I don't think it was a command vessel. I don't think it was doing science. I don't think it was doing exploration. I think it was mostly support within Federation space. Mage?
Support.
Okay. Christine, do you know about the USS Titan? Okay, go ahead. Okay. Jefferson?
Science.
Science? Okay.
Science on this one.
Zam?
I mean, you guys are going to win with support, but I'm going to go with command personally because, once again, what I did see of it was a lot of ass kicking. You don't call yourself the Titan if you're not going to be being an ass kicker personally. So I'm going with command.
Okay, so
it's a very good name. It's not like a neutral name or whatever. It's a name that's saying I'm going to fuck you up.
Zem, you're right. You're totally right with the name. But I also wanted to bring up just briefly, why are all these exploration ships going out middle fucking nowhere, not more heavily armed? I wouldn't want to go somewhere without some guns, some QP.
Yeah, you have to defend yourselves. You've got to be defensive. Okay, so wait a minute. So it was support for me and Mage. What was yours, Christine?
Hey, support wins it, by the way.
Okay. All right, support. Okay. The La Serena from Picard. I left this one in here just because I'm like, whatever.
Is that Rios' ship?
Yeah, that's Rios' ship.
Fuck me.
It's like a merchant vessel. I don't. Whatever you guys want to put it under, I don't even care really.
Put it in support and call it a night.
It looks like it's owned by a renegade person, so if anything, it's going to be a command ship because it's there to
Solo.
It's like a Han Solo type Millennium Falcon thing going on. So yeah,
I can see that.
If that's the case, by the way, we need to have what's his name, Booker's ship in this as well because that's also very similar too from Discovery.
Yeah, well, as I said, I didn't make most of this list. I just kind of adopted it. Jefferson, what do you think?
Support.
Okay, so it's going to fall in support. It's a merchant vessel, so I would say support. I mean, Christine, go ahead.
Chris.
No, I know, Chris, but I mean, we've already got 3 supports. So
you keep it on?
I'm gonna say it can't be science or exploration, so I'll go either way. Science or support or command. Leaning towards.
Well, why don't you pick one, Chris?
Well, then I'm going against you, Sam. I'm going support.
All right, fair enough. As long as you pick one, I don't care if you go against me or not. Okay.
Listen, kids, don't make me turn this podcast around.
You'll pull it right over, and nobody will get ice cream either. We'll go straight home without it.
All right, last 2 guys. The USS Enterprise F. Now we can, if you guys have played Star Trek Online, there is quite a bit of extended canon there with the Enterprise F. So if you know it, you can use it. And who hasn't gone first recently? Jefferson, have you gone first recently? I don't remember. You go ahead and go first.
I'll just go ahead and go first.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got to get back into Star Trek Online. I haven't played in a while. I have my spurts, so I'll go on and off for a while playing that. But for the Enterprise F, I'm going to go with command on that one.
Okay. Ziam?
Well, I have no fucking idea, but I'm going to go with science because science needs a little bit of love.
All right. I am going to go with command as well, especially in the context of what we saw in Picard season 3. So, I mean, in Star Trek Online, it was in a lot of command situations where it had to show up and lead fleet maneuvers and stuff like that, like in the Star Trek Online missions and stuff like that. So I 100% agree with command. Mage?
Command.
All right. Christine, do you have an opinion? I don't know if you've seen. I didn't know if you'd seen very much of it. Okay.
Need more support. Need more science ships.
Yeah, right. All right. Hey guys, let's go to the USS, the last one, the USS Enterprise G, or AKA the USS Titan A. Mage, since season 3 of Picard was your favorite season of any Star Trek ever, I'm going to start with you.
Oh God, Shaw was running first Riker, then Shaw was running a support ship.
Support?
Support. I'm going to put it in support.
Okay. Christine, have you seen Picard season 3 yet?
I have not, so I don't have an opinion. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. Actually, really quick before I've lost way with the comments. Sorry about that. Okay, so Daniel Vance really quick says, I'm back. Lightning took out my UPS battery. Oh man, UPS? Took me a few to figure out what got fried. He also says E is probably my least favorite. That's very sad. I love the E. I love the Enterprise E more than the D, that's for sure. That was clearly built for war. Give me a ship of exploration any day. He says Rios' ship was Deus Ex Machina.
Deus Ex Machina, machine by God.
And then Quad BC says, "Come join my fleet in Star Trek Online, Dark Angels Apocalypse. We have both Federation and Klingon Tier 5 fleets."
I'm coming
right
now, mate.
He's
I'll be
he's
there
going
in 5
right.
minutes.
He's going right now. Okay, Jefferson, where were you going to put the Enterprise G under?
I really want to give some love to science, especially since the one science vessel declared in Star Trek unequivocally, the Grissom, is not on here. That would have been an easy one. But I think I'm going to have to put it down as support.
Okay. Zam?
Well, from what I remember from Shaw, that the last thing he wanted to do was support anybody. He seemed kind of reluctant to help people out. He was very much by the book. So I'm maybe going to go with, and once again, I think science needs some love. So I'm going to put some science in that category right there.
Okay, Christine, what were you going to?
Again, I don't know it, but I'm just pointing out that a lot of the ships start off as exploring and science, but are forced into these command roles, I've noticed.
Well, a lot of the some of these were built for command. I mean, let's be real. The Enterprise, like if you change command to combat, a combat ship, it'd be a totally different way of going about this. Like that's why I didn't want to do combat. Like command is a little bit different than combat, but it's still inclusive because technically combat can be under support and command. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I feel like the Defiant would be a support ship if it didn't have Cisco on it. If you had a fleet of Defiants that didn't have anyone particular on it, they would just be support ships in a fleet. You know what I mean? The reason why the Defiant was a command ship was because Cisco was on it. So that's kind of my.
I think sometimes you can also look at the name to kind of determine what type of sort of ship it is. It's defined. You know what I mean? In that sense, it's like don't fuck with me. Like regarding Voyager being exploration ship, it's called Voyager. I mean that's a definition of exploration. Titan is what we just said earlier, which is more of a command ship. Obviously, the way Shaw ran it, he didn't run it as a command ship whatsoever, even though he's got that name. Sorry, major. Oh,
but also we put Discovery under science, but its name is Discovery.
I looked at it as a command ship personally because it was put in a position. It was involved in the war at the time, so but that's because of the scenarios.
Yeah, but I mean, I was just talking about your name. The name thing you were talking about.
Yeah, I agree. That was the exception to the rule.
Okay, go ahead, Christine, and then we're gonna wrap up.
If it helps at all, with support, don't think of something the equivalent of infantry, artillery, or tanks as support ever. They're not. Just so you know.
Okay.
I
mean, as I said, yes, you could put another category in here for combat, but I guess it just depends. No tier list is perfect, especially like this. I wanted to do something different. So anyway, all right. So there's our list, everybody. What do you guys think?
It's a bit sad that there's so many ships in command.
I agree. But
yeah, that's exploration and science, the fundamentals of the Federation. Go to the wayside of support and command.
but support is not necessarily about being aggressive either. It's just support, like the Cerritos. But at least those other three categories outweigh command. I mean, command's got a lot individually, but the other three, which are more in the vein of what Star Trek's about, at least there's more ships there, which is good.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, let me take this down really quick, and we'll close out.
Yeah. What's up, Chris?
Yep. I'm bringing this back up here, and then there we go. All right. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just gonna say, a lot of those command ships still did do science and exploration, but it is a pitiful state when science and exploration ships are forced into the role of command or combat, whatever you want to call it, because it is their main goal, right? Science, exploration.
Yep. All right. Well, everybody, thank you very much for being here today. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you, Zam, Christine, Mage, Jefferson. Mage and Jefferson, we say it every week, but Mage and Jefferson have their links in the description below for their things. So we've already heard the spiels before. So we'll wrap this up so we can get out of here. But yeah, go to their stuff on the links below in the description and check them out. And as usual, you are watching, well, technically you could be watching us on 3 places, but I am from NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you kind of maybe sort of heard of. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.